When a poker player says he's broke, be suspicious. And when a poker player tells you he's flush loaded with cash, be suspicious again. Now, does that have anything to do with the story I'm going to tell you today? No, but I thought I would throw it in there anyhow. All right, so you probably already know. Today is April 21st, and yesterday, on April 20, 2020, the World Series of Poker finally came out and officially said, yes, the World Series of Poker 2020 is going to be postponed. Everybody, all you degenerates already know this. So the World Series of Poker has been officially postponed to a tentative, well, we'll try real hard to get her done in the fall. Let's get her done in the fall. And I believe the odds are really good that it will happen in the fall. I think it's going to be a good bet that it's going to happen. I'm optimistic. So, of course, I'm not going to make a video and just tell you that because everybody's already told you that. But I got a couple old horseshoe stories I'd like to share with you. It just came to my mind. You know, anytime the World Series of Poker news is out there, sometimes I have flashbacks to the old days, back in the 1980s. Boy, I really had a good time back in the 80s at the Horseshoe. It was a really degenerate poker room. And, well, you know, I'm going to share a couple of stories with you because I think they're good stories. The 1980s smoky horseshoe poker room scams. Now, there's going to be a few kids out there today who are going to really not believe what I'm going to tell you because things have changed a lot. In 30 years, things have changed quite a bit, mainly through technology. I don't think that people have generally changed too much. I think maybe people are getting dumber. And I think maybe people back then may have been a little bit more naive. But the main reason why the young people are not going to believe this story today is because of technology. I mean, hell, you go into a casino today and boom, they got facial recognition cameras all over your face. I mean, you cannot even walk into a casino today and without them knowing who you are. I mean, even if you had a big hat on and sunglasses on, that facial recognition is going to recognize not only your face, but your clothes. What I'm about ready to tell you would probably be darn near impossible to do today. But it was possible back in the day. So I'm going to tell you a couple stories. And to me, when I heard them way back then, I mean, I was kind of flabbergasted. It was hard for me to believe the stories back then. I was just a young whippersnapper. But okay, to give you a feel of how the horseshoe was back then, about 5 out of 9 players were smoking. I mean, these were smoky poker rooms, and I did not smoke. I got to tell you, that was the worst thing. I mean, I was a degenerate gambler, hardcore, and I put up with the smoke. But that was one thing I hated. I hated the smoke on the poker table. I hated when I was dealing dice and 21, and those bastards had the cigars blowing that shit in your face. I hated it, but as a degenerate gambler, you put up with these type of things. Anyhow, everybody was smoking. You had the old ladies smoking, chain smoking. Cigarettes were really, really cheap back then. What were they, like 50 cents a pack? It was unbelievable. Anyhow, $100 bills were very commonly in action at the table, at all times. Dealers knew how to keep the game moving, change and all. I mean, those C notes were flying into the pot. The dealers were able to change it up, keep the momentum going. $100 bills flying into the pot, and it didn't faze the dealers one bit. They knew how to run the game. Let me tell you something. Those horseshoe dealers were clean and good. I mean, they were smooth, the best of the best. That's all I got to say. If you tell me that you were a horseshoe dealer in the 1970s and 80s, well, I take my hat off to you because you were good. I mean, you were damn good. All right, I had to say that. Kudos to the horseshoe dealers. They were the best. The poker room was a seedy place. I mean, you could play all day long and get 3 comps for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and I knew guys that did it. The steak was terrific. They had degenerates and rounders hanging out there all day long, 3 meals a day. It was something else. They had loan sharks hanging out, Fast Al Sharp. He was kind of chubby Al Sharp. You could get loans there, Loan Shark. I mean, the action was there. This was normal months. The normal months were the regular grinders and the weekend drunks and the off-work dealers, rich authors moving to town to write a book. And what better place to pass the time than playing poker at the Horseshoe with gamblers and mobsters? And hell, how could you tell the difference? And if your drinking got out of hand, I mean, hell, they gave you free drinks. They knew you could get out of hand. If your drinking got out of hand, they'd tell you straight up and politely, you gotta go, kid, you gotta go. But hey, you're welcome back tomorrow as soon as you sober up. It was a class action sawdust joint. I mean, they knew how to run the place. We're talking about professionals. Your first bet on the dice table was your maximum. You come in there with $1 million bet, you set your maximum. You come in there with 100,000, bam, put it down. That's your maximum. They were gamblers. But these little tidbits you already know. Tonight I'm going to share a couple that you probably never heard of before, and that's why I'm making the video. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, first off, like I said, normal, regular month, same old, solid action, day in, day out. But come World Series of Poker time, wow, things just got started. They were buzzing. People flying in from all over. The action was hot and heavy. There was nothing like it in the world. I mean, it was just unbelievable. If you were a gambler, if you were a degenerate, the World Series of Poker time in downtown, it just did not get any better than that. And I haven't even seen it get that good since. In 30 years, it just didn't get any better. The World Series of Poker. I lost jobs. I think I lost a job at the Lady Luck. I was dealing to the Lady Luck. And I said, hey, it's World Series of Poker time. I need the early out. I'm going to go play poker. Some shift boss skirt says, no, you're going to stick around. I lost my job. I said, hell, screw you, bitch. I'm going to the World Series of Poker. You're fired. Out of here. See you later. Anyhow, the camaraderie between people who played, the people who came in, there was a camaraderie between the people who really never knew each other. They'd fly in from everywhere. Canada, Germany, Austria, Poland, Italy, Spain, I mean, everywhere. South America, but everybody felt like poker playing brothers. I mean, you were together, some sort of gambling sorority or something like that, okay? And there were some sisters thrown into the mix. $100 bills stacked up on the table as cash played back then. Now, the thing was that most of the fun recreational players who came in for their chance to play with the big-time pros, I mean, they really didn't understand the casinos are chock full of scammers. People who do not work a day job, and they stay up late at night trying to figure out ways of separating you from your hard-earned cashola. I mean, the casino was full of these people. They were scammers. For example, a guy might fly in from Canada or Germany, and he sees everybody playing on the tables with stacks of $100 bills on the table, and this tourist, he might assume that the casino was responsible for all that cash on the table. Say you went to the restroom. These tourists, these recreational players, they were not really worried. Hell, they weren't worried about their cash on the table. They're thinking, hell, somebody steals my cash, the casino will reimburse me. Oh, well, not really. Actually, that assumption could not be further from the truth. You see, a lot of people learned the hard way, and I'm sure, the casino's not responsible for your cash on the table. They just weren't. They did not advertise this, though. That's the thing. Players and people did not really know it because it's not something they advertised. The dealers didn't tell you. When you got up to went to the restroom and you had a stack of $100 bills, the dealers didn't say, hey, we're not responsible for you. No, dealers kept their mouth shut, and they dummied up and they dealt the game. Now, there might have been a few times here and there, where the Binions reimbursed somebody. Somebody had some cash stolen off the table, and maybe the Binions, for whatever reason, reimbursed them. They were able to do that. The Binions owned the place. They could reimburse anybody they choose. But what I'm trying to tell you, the point is It was not casino policy to reimburse you for any cash that was stolen off the table. This was not advertised. So finally, the story you've been waiting for. Okay, we're at the World Series of Poker. Let me see if I can remember what year it was. So I found out it was going on all through the 80s, but I just didn't know about it. I didn't actually find out about it until like the late 90s. I think it was the last year that Stu Younger won the World Series of Poker. I found out about it because, well, you're going to find out in a second. But anyhow, this scam had been going on for a long time. People would fly in from all over the world, like I said. And it was not uncommon during the World Series of Poker time. You got to remember, a lot of action going on. Everybody's excited. And it was not uncommon to be sitting at a 10-20 game or a 20-40 game or a 40-80 game and not recognize anybody at the table. Now, this is the most important part of this story, to be able to get a feel of what was going on. I mean, you, especially, you're a Vegas poker player, or you're an LA poker player, you're there for the World Series of Poker, and you're sitting there at this game and you don't recognize anybody. They could be from all over the world. And of course, if you don't really recognize anybody, sometimes faces kind of blend in. Okay, these were juicy games too. Easy money, easy for the taking. That's what the World Series of Poker was all about. All this recreational money coming in. They wanted to rub elbows with the professionals and the mobsters, and that was easy money there. Okay. Like I said, easy money if you could control your other vices in life. I mean, if your drugs and your drinking and your women. Okay, so the table is full. Okay, here we are at the World Series of Poker. The table is full. It's a big game. I'm not really sure if it's 40, 80, or it might even be bigger than that. It's full table. Lots of action, but nobody's out of control at this game. There's no drunks. It's a peaceful, friendly, easygoing game. Nobody's really talking to each other. And then there's a recreational player, and he's sitting in the 2-seat, okay? So there's a recreational player. He's sitting in the 2-seat. He has lots of black chips in front of him, and he has a stack of cash in front of him. Maybe, I don't know, 10, 15,000 in C notes. Yeah, a lot of cash just sitting there. These people, coming from Europe. I don't know what kind of business they did, but they had lots of cash. Okay, get this. This is crazy. Get this. He decides to go eat dinner. Yeah, this is not uncommon. People like to go eat dinner. They hurry back to the table before they get picked up. But he decides to go eat dinner, but he leaves his chips there and the cash on the table. Leaves his cash. Now, at this point, I got to tell you, very common for people to leave their black chips at the table while they ran off for a quick dinner and they hurried back. But normally, most people would pick up their cash, put it in their pocket when they went to dinner. That's common sense. But like I said, these were recreational players. They didn't really have a feel. They didn't know that there were scammers in the casino. Anyhow, they said, hey, yeah, the casino will watch my money. Oh, yeah, right. Okay, so he goes to dinner. Leaves the chips there. Nobody's going to say a word to you. You do whatever you want to do in the casinos. Nobody's going to say a word to you. Maybe they thought he was going to go take a piss or something. I don't even know if he told the table, I'm going to go eat dinner. He didn't have to. He just got up and went to eat dinner. But like I said, this guy is perfectly comfortable leaving it all there. I mean, hell, like the horseshoe will watch it for me. Okay, really? Okay. So he's only gone for about a minute. And then this is where the story gets interesting. And then, out of the blue, the guy must have been on the rail watching. This guy, scammer, must have been on the rail watching. This big guy with a big cowboy hat sits down in his seat. Yes, big guy, cowboy hat, down on his head, sits down in this recreational player's seat, and nobody notices that this ain't the same guy. Those are not his chips, and they're definitely not his cash. So you're thinking, well, that doesn't sound possible, but it happened. And here's where the story gets really crazy, because if it was just that, if the guy just sat down, picked up the cash, and took off, well, so be it. But this story gets really crazy. It's incredible, Because this guy does not just play one hand and then pick up the cash and run. No, no, no. This sick bastard, he plays an entire round with the other guy's money. How does he know the guy's going to be gone that long? How does he know the guy's going to dinner? I don't know. But he's so confident. This scammer is so confident, so cool under pressure, sitting there with his big cowboy hat on his head, plays an entire round with this other guy's money. Sick. When I heard it, I couldn't believe it. Plays 10 rounds, or not 10 rounds, 10 hands. And then when the blind comes, he calmly and collectively racks up his black chip, he racks up the black chips, stuffs the $100 stack of $100 into his coat, and calmly walks away. When I heard it, I couldn't believe it. Now, you might be thinking, now this is impossible. This is impossible. I mean, could not happen. But it did happen. And it came, and how do I know? It came right from the eye in the sky. It was all on tape. The recreational foreign player, he comes back from dinner. He starts yelling, where in the hell is my money? With probably some Austrian accent, which I don't know how to do. Where's my money? Where's my money? They check with the eye in the sky, and sure enough, it happened just like I described it to you. But here is the kicker. The guy must have been a pro at this. I mean, he had this move down pat, cool as a cucumber. Like I said, played 10 hands, calmly picked up the money. But like I said, he must have been a pro because his huge cowboy hat was worn just perfectly so the camera could not see his face. And this son of a bitch got away with it. Can you imagine? Scary. It was scary to me because, sometimes I play with $100 bills on the table. But normally, if I went to the restroom, I'd pick up my $100 bills. Even then, I don't know if I was cheap, but I was not stupid, and I think it's common sense. I did. But it was scary stuff to hear that this actually happened. And I do not believe that he was reimbursed. They told him, we're not responsible for your money. And if it was a foreign player, he's not coming back. I mean, he's not like a regular. If it was a regular that the Binions knew and liked and loved, maybe the Binions would have took care of him. But this was no regular, so I'm pretty sure he lost. It was a $20,000 score for the guy in the cowboy hat. Unbelievable. Okay, one last story. I know I've been rambling on for a long time, but one last story because it goes with the horseshoe back in that day. This last scam. Now, this scam is not really done on the poker table, but it's done by the poker players. And a lot of the poker players that hung out at the horseshoe, they did this. I knew a few of them. There was this one guy, a real young guy, real handsome fella. He did this every year. He tried to get me to go do it. He said, yeah, come on with me. It's great. He tried to get me to do this scam. I did not do it. But I was, I was confused that this guy did it because he was a good-looking guy. I didn't think he had any problem getting women. But anyhow, this has to do with Thailand and getting women. Okay. So anyhow, poker players don't like to work. And they don't have a lot of time on their hands to wine and dine and romance the opposite sex. So it was a little known scam back then. And like I said, I know it because I knew a few people who did it. They told me about it. They wanted me to do it, but I did not do it. They would take about $5,000 to $10,000 in American Express traveler's checks. And say like after the World Series of Poker's over, okay? They're ready for a little fun. The World Series of Poker's over. They're ready for a fun. So anyhow, they would buy about $5,000 to $10,000 in American Express traveler's checks, and they would go to Thailand and stay for months there, living like a king with all those beautiful women. Anyhow, when they got to Thailand, there was a group of shady Thai guys there who could arrange for cashing the traveler's checks incognito, kind of like fencing them. And then the scam was these guys would call American Express up and say, hey, my traveler's checks were stolen. I need to be reimbursed. And we're talking like maybe $10,000 in traveler's checks. Now, these guys would get to Thailand. They had this shady group of Thai guys that would go ahead and cash the traveler's checks for them incognito. You would get your $10,000, and then he would call American Express, say, hey, they've been stolen. You got your $10,000 cash in your pocket, and now you're expecting American Express to reimburse you for your $10,000. And this was in the 80s. American Express was not yet hip to the scam, and a lot of times they reimbursed the so-called stolen money, no questions asked. So basically, you were doubling these guys would double their money. They would go to Thailand with about 10,000. Do the scam with the shady Thai guys who fenced off the traveler's checks. I think they took about a 15% cut. So you almost doubled your money. And what that meant was that these guys, these poker players, could spend a few extra months in Siam, living like a king, waiting for the next World Series of Poker. I mean, hey, life was good back then, huh? Life was good. And there's no way in hell, I'm telling you this right now, there's no way in hell that we would have ever accepted house arrest back then over a goddamn cold virus. No, that was just not ever going to happen back then. We were a little bit tougher than that. Good luck.